Imagine, demand and build a world transformed.
Welcome to everyone. For those of you who don't know me, which is most of you on the call, my name's Becki Winson. I am a senior organiser at the New Economics Foundation. I'm also an organiser, like a lot of grassroots and local Labour Party stuff as well. And my background before I came to work at NEF was in the trade union movement. So hey to any union comrades joining us. Before we get started properly, I'm just going to go through some quick announcements. So first of all, the World Transform rules of engagement. We've got a few rules of engagement to guide our conversation and any comments in the chat this afternoon. So the first one is assumption of goodwill. So even if someone is saying something you disagree with, assume they're doing so with the best interest of the movement at heart. And if you have to disagree, then disagree with kindness and respect. Secondly, one of our rules is that we will call out bigotry. This is a pluralist space. We really welcome comradely debate, but any bigotry and outright bigotry will be challenged. And then lastly, and I think this is a good guide for all of us, especially loudmouths like myself, especially if you're a loudmouth, try and listen more than you talk. So this space is a really important opportunity to gain knowledge from other people, as well as teach others yourself. But yeah, do try and listen more than you talk. I want to mention the World Transform Supporters Network. We want to fund political education like this all the year round. We've got groups across the country ready to go, and we just need enough funds to make that happen. So if you can make a small donation each month, just go to theworldtransformed.org/support. Also, in terms of accessibility, we've got a transcription service available for those who are more comfortable reading text. So the link to that will be posted in the chat. Okay, so I think that's all the housekeeping, apart from to run through our agenda very quickly. So what we'll be doing is we'll be hearing from myself and then each speaker in turn. We've got a short comfort break scheduled shortly after 1 o'clock. After that, there'll be 10 minutes in breakout groups, which we'll put you in to reflect on what you've learned from hearing from the speakers today. And then what we'll do is we'll end up with a Q&A from the speakers. There's also something that I should mention, which is that I'm afraid that Rowan from the Sheffield Needs a Pay Rise campaign has unfortunately had to deal with a family emergency that happened just this morning. So she won't be able to join us. The space that we would be hearing from Rowan will be using to take some direct questions to the speakers themselves before we do that comfort break, I think. So that is it from me. The transcription service and sort of like anyone who needs help, just post something in the chat and people can help you out with tech queries, I think, if you have any. Okay, so bit of an introduction from me. So community organising has seen a massive increase in interest over recent years. So all the speaking I have done recently, and especially during lockdown, is around like, what is community organising? Why should we do it? How should we do it? I often feel like I spend more time talking about community organising than doing it, which is a terrible position for an organiser to be in. But what I'm going to start by saying is just a quick definition of what community organising is. So it is basically using people power in a targeted way to make the change we want. And most importantly, it's doing that in a way which leaves power behind. And it does this by growing the power, skills, and confidence of those affected by the issue that you're campaigning around. So a big NGO or charity running a housing campaign which just targets MPs and just uses their brand and their existing power to do that is not organising, although there is a space for that. But tenants groups coming together to fight for better housing conditions and either developing skills and knowledge or an organisation which sticks around after that fight is won is. The other thing about organising, and I think this is really important to say, is that in my opinion at least, if you're not fighting someone or you're not fighting against something or for something, you're probably not organising. because organising is essentially one set of interests against another. And that other is generally not your friend, and you will need to take them on if you want to win. We all wish that we could fight community and workplace battles without having to, well, fight them. But if that was the case, the world would be a very different place. There wouldn't be so much injustice, and these struggles wouldn't need to be had in the first place. So while mutual aid and food bank groups and community organisations which provide frontline services are all great and doing a vital work, they're not organising, although they are really great places to start organising if you're in one of those groups. So if you are building collective power and you're doing that to fight for something, then congratulations, you are an organiser. And that is the most important thing to remember about organising. As it's become like more fashionable, especially on the left, and more NGOs, unions and charities hire professional organisers, guilty as charged, there is a danger that, like so much on the left, it is pulled into theorising, into like a political language or an academised like language, and it's made so complicated that only middle class people with the time on their hands engage with it. But there are all sorts of organising methods, and the best organisers aren't those which know every single one off by heart. It's the ones who know what will work for their community or workplace and who do it. I can't emphasise that last bit enough. You learn organising from practising it, not by debating it. So why is there this sudden surge of interest in it? Why does the labour movement suddenly want to do it? Why are we holding this session? Why have I spoken at 5 others this year alone? Well, really because we know that organising works. It won us all of our most important workplace rights. It won us equality legislation. It won us the vote. And as importantly, it built a new common sense and new structures of power which protect all those things and are doing their damn best at the moment to stop a lot of those things from being attacked. Organising also makes our institutions stronger. So done right, it means you can mobilise huge numbers to get out the vote or campaign or do community work or whatever it is that you need to make things happen. But that said, and given that this is taking place as part of the World Transformed, I want to make one thing clear. Organising can be used by anyone for any political purpose, and in a lot of cases, the right are a lot better at using it than the left are. But true socialist organising, which builds a powerful working class, is not about an outsider coming along and organising others around ideas and issues which they, as the outsider, have already decided are important. It's about growing the power of working class people around what benefits them to organise around. So organising for the sole purpose of increasing Labour's vote share might succeed, but it would result in no lasting power, no deep engagement, no real connection to the issues, and crucially, no increase in people's power, only in the power of the party itself. So organising changes things, and if the Labour movement really wants to organise and take that seriously, it has to be open to itself being one of those things that changes. If the Labour movement wants to take organising seriously, it means developing people within it, it means seceding power to some people within it, and it ultimately means changing how it looks and functions, because at the moment, we're not organising. But organising is still vital to building socialism and being part of that struggle. For true community or national ownership and control of our assets to come about, we need to grow collective experiences and skills and a widespread understanding of the power needed to build a new world and protect it from attack. That will never truly happen without collectively organised communities, without collectively organised workplaces, without people raising their expectations and seeing new possibilities. There is no point in Labour having power unless the working class are also empowered, both to hold Labour to account and to make sure that legislation like the minimum wage, like equal pay, like estate ballots, like social housing programmes are protected. Comrade once said to me, but changing things that way will take years, and it will, but it doesn't have to take decades, because this work is already going on up and down the country, and it has been for a long, long time. we have got three really great women here to talk about the organising they're doing. And I am really excited to hear from all of them. The first speaker that we've got, and I'm going to hand over to her now, is Victoria Alvarez. She's a Colombian trader at the Latin village, Pueblito Paysa, which I probably just horrendously mispronounced, in Seven Sisters Market in North London. Since the 1980s, Latin Village has been a thriving market and a collection of shops and small service businesses, mainly run by Latin American traders like Victoria. It is the heart of London's Latin American community. However, the area is now marked for redevelopment by Granger PLC, boo, which plans to build chain stores and luxury flats, but obviously no social housing. So the traders have come together to campaign against this. And Victoria, I'm going to hand over to you now so you can tell us a bit about what you've been up to, what the campaign is, and what people can take from that.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, and thank you for having me in here as an honor. Well, like Becki say, I'm Colombian. You know, I have been here for many years, and then I just wanted to make a small correction. The market has been open since 1980. But the Latin village settled in here in the market in the early 2000s, 2002. I came here at 2002, 2003, and I find out after investing a lot of money because I was a single mom, and the idea behind it at the beginning was I need to provide like a steady income for my daughter. At the same time, I needed to be able to look after her. I'm a refugee, Colombian refugee. And it was very difficult because I couldn't access any public funding, of course, and then I needed to reinvent myself. So I did. So I set up a store in here, and that's how Pueblito Paisa was born. We were like 3 traders at the beginning, and then at the beginning it was how we can earn money and how we can, you know, look after our children at the same time than to work. And later on, you know, very early start to evolve into a very important place for the community. And we find out that we needed to find a voice and to be visible. I have been campaigning for the past 16 years. It has been a very difficult fight because, as you can see, our first language is not English. So learning all the terms and all the technicalities and all the dirty tricks, as I call it, from the council, from the developer, from all this kind of organization has been a really tough thing. So how we started, it was like we need this place for the community. I was knocking at the door of the council many times just to see how they're going to help us. Basically, they say, "Well, you've been this place before. What is what another displacement? What difference does another displacement make in your life?" So I just, at the beginning, I didn't thought about it, and then I thought, hold on a second, he was trying to say this to me. So it was really difficult because, like you said before, it was at the beginning, you don't see that you're going to be an activist or you're going to be a campaigner. You just became one, but without realizing it, and by trying to organize your community to fight injustice. But it's difficult when, first of all, when you are a refugee, it's very difficult. And secondly, when your first language is not English, it's even difficult because you always think, I am doing the right thing or no? Do I been really annoying to the country and all that? So the great thing is when you start, you know, spreading the voice and people around, the neighbors collectively, they start to see that we all fighting for the same goals. So that was the thing. That was more or less what gave us the shape or the form of this campaign. And then it was by involving everybody, just as reaching out to people, not being afraid to talk, even if you make mistakes, because I did thousands of mistakes at the beginning. Like I didn't know what I was asking, and I think I became really annoying to many organizations, big organizations, because I didn't know what I was asking, but I knew what I wanted, but I just didn't have the lingo to be able to express myself. And with the time, I learn and we progress and we just grow into all this, what it is today. And then also, trying to engage with the stakeholders, for example, the people were involved. It's been, it has been a very difficult process. It has been a very depressing process because they make you feel like you don't worth anything. Literally, you don't. But it's the resilience of communities who put up with the fight. And then that's what we have been doing for so many years, and fighting and then involving people. Of course, we don't know everything, but by reaching out of the wider communities, when you find this amazing other organization and another groups who wanted to link into your organization. So we all benefit from mutual aid, put it like that, mutual aid in many ways. And, just a lot of people with different type of skills to be able to help us. And then is trying to reach to the wider audience that it was challenging, or still has been challenging, and then trying to plan with different strategies to be able to overcome this. But of course, have been battling for the past 16 years, and I still here on Sundays. I think the achievement, even though it looks very grim sometimes and very upsetting, and you see that you don't have a future. There has been days that I cry and I ask myself, have I done the right thing? Have I put all this community and my family and the person that I care for with so much hardship? But at the end of the day, when I just wipe my tears away, I say, yes, it was worth it, because like you say, it will take years, not decades. And I asked the same question because, I became like a labor, and because it resonates who I am as a person. But of course, at the moment, it's very upsetting to see that who I am and what is the party stand for, or this organization stand for, are not there for you. So you just question yourself as like, what's going on? How we can make a change? And I do believe collectively, we all have to be part of this change. And then it's not like, oh my God, it's like, it's not going to happen. Why bother? No, you have to be, if you want to see a change, if you wanted to leave a legacy for your kids or for the future, you have to fight back, because there is no other ways. Other ways they will gonna come and bulldoze the community. That is the thing that is happening right here. We got petitions, we have met a lot of different politicians that they promise that they're gonna do this, and then they do the other things. And it's just by doing this is the resistance. We mustn't give up. Take it from me that, like I say, I got problems still with the language and everything, but I'm not willing to give up, to sell my values for no matter what, because I think the communities are very important. And bulldozing the communities and just bringing wealth into according to them, the wealth that they have in their mind. The wealth is the community. That is where the power lies. It's in the community. And who else know how to deal with the community that ourselves? Is they should first, before they impose something onto communities, they should consult with the communities and listen to them, not try to impose something like we are small kids or something. Because not even as a parent, I remember when my daughter was growing up, I always used to find compromises with her, and she was a little one. But this is what the governments and these politicians have to change. The mindset, it needs to be changed. And we 16 years down the line, we're still battling. We've been to the United Nations. We have done everything possible to carry on, to give the voice. And the Latin community is one of the most invisible communities in the UK, and we are fighting for that invisibility to be recognized as, yes, we are invisible, but yes, we're here. We contribute a lot to the economic of the country. We're here for whatever reason, political, economical. I'm really sorry we're here, but we give a lot of contribution to the country. So why they don't treat us with the same respect that we respect the country? And this is that is something that I always trying to, the most important thing is try to empower people, because at the beginning you feel really scared, even to talk, even to ask, you are afraid. And in my community, there's still a lot of people on my community who are really scared to rock the boat a lot, because they think there's going to be consequences. It's this fear that a lot of people are living in.
Thank you so much, Vicky. I think that was really powerful, and I think it's a reminder to all of us, either who are organising at the moment or who want to organise in their own communities and workplaces, that this stuff can take time, and this stuff is about harnessing community power, and it's about being brave and not standing down when you're pushed, and like being strong enough to stand up to the pressure that you'll get put under. And we'll hear a bit more from you later in the Q&A about that in Village, but in the meantime, thanks.
Thank you.
The next speaker that we've got up is Tamika Gill. Tamika Gill lives on the Druids Heath estate in Birmingham. Druids Heath is currently undergoing a £42 million regeneration, which threatens hundreds of social homes, as well as like the community itself, the makeup of that community. As chair of the Druids Heath and Moneyhill Forum, Tamika organised that community, and they took direct action against Birmingham City Council on a number of occasions last year. And then at the end of last year, after only about a year of organising, the forum won a pause to evictions which are taking place, as well as the formation by the council of a resident-led steering group to manage the regeneration for the community's best interests. Not all things have been won yet, as Tamika will be the first to tell you, but they are still carrying on with the organising and campaigning they're doing locally. So I'm going to hand over to Tamika now to tell us all about what she's been up to and what she's learned from it. And Tamika, over to you.
Well, to begin, I've learned a lot from organising. I've learned a lot from dealing with the council. And one of my things is the council is never transparent. They're never like truthful ever. There's no clarity with majority of the things that they say. And I've learned that, like, I started in 2016 when the first regeneration came about. I live in a tower block. I'm originally from Jamaica, you may know from the accent. And there's a lot of injustice there. And when I came in this tower block, it reminds me of a third world country because it's deplorable. We've got mold and all sorts, asbestos and everything like that, you know? And when they came with the plan in 2016 to regenerate, we felt good, like, yeah, the council is gonna do something. When I've learned, like, these blocks were built for working class people, and it's been there from the 1960s, but there's never ever anything done to them. So that's like 60 years of not doing anything. When we ask, like, when people ask, where do you live? And we say, Druids Heath, they say, where's that? You know, so we're off the map completely. We have to say, oh, you have to go past King's Heath, come up to Maypole and Fort left from the roundabout, and that's us. You know, people don't even know that Druids Heath exists. But back to the 2016 regen, we went there and the council sold us a dream. Basically, they showed us like what they want to transform the area to look like and all that good stuff. And we were on that. They took some people to Telford and say, oh, that's how you're gonna have it and whatnot. But then when it came to consultation, we started asking questions and the answers weren't given to us. Like, people started getting defensive, people started getting aggressive. One person called us talk in a meeting, and that really took to us, because if you're gonna call us talk as a council official, that means you're treating us like cattle, you know, and that's how we literally felt. And then from that, we decided that we don't want to deal with her no more. We've been like having like about 60 meetings with different officials. We had like emails back and forth, and there was nothing, no transparency. We decided to meet another council officer in the council house to say, well, look, this is what we want to do. You know, you got to involve residents in this, and we're just not going to sit back and let the council do as they will to us, you know. We got to fight back. We organized as a forum because we're residents in this community, and we saw that there was an injustice done to us too. So we're going to fight back. She said, okay, just deal with me and not with anybody else. And the minute we got back, had a meeting, it was all over. Like, it's like we never spoken to her. So before all of that, we started working with NEF, New Economics Foundation. And she taught us like organizing properly because we did not really know how to do that specifically. And then we kind of gather our thoughts a little bit and say, well, then organizing it is. We started knocking on doors in the all the blocks that were supposed to be demolished to get people's you know, what do you want from around here, that sort of thing. We came up with ideas of a list of 7 demands and got people to start signing, is that okay for us, whatever. And then we sent them to the leader of Birmingham, and he had to step in. And him seeing all of that, like those are voices to him, because those are people speaking up at the end of the day. And he gave me a call and said, could we have a meeting? But he thought that the meeting was just going to be about me and him, or me and somebody else from the forum and stuff. So we organized it properly and had residents come into that meeting. So then he would have to listen to these residents telling him that this is what's happening to us. We don't like this. You got to make a change and stuff like that. And he eventually said, all right, we're gonna have to like stop and start afresh. Now, when we as residents, we thought, yeah, we're gonna get a clean slate with the council and all of that. But then he backtracked again. He gave me another phone call and he said, oh, we have to carry on from the 2018 cabinet report and what this. And I said, but in the meeting, you said that we're gonna have to start afresh. I thought afresh mean start from the beginning, not so much the beginning, but at least do some proper consultation, at least get the residents' involvement. You know, that's what we were thinking afresh meant. Oh no, whatever. But we had another meeting with him, with some housing officials and some people from the university, and I got all the other agencies in the area to come to that meeting. And then he said, the best way forward is to have a steering group. We said, okay, well, maybe a steering group may help. But when we got to that point, the council started organizing all of that without the residents' involvement again. So you got majority council officials coming in, and then a few of us, the agencies, and like 2-3 people that works in the area as stakeholders. We said, look, we were meant to do this as a collective, but somehow the council like lied to us again. Well, put that aside, we on the steering group now, and it was all council facilitated, all council doing this, all council doing that. We decided that that's not going to happen. We need to have an elected chair, an independent chair. We don't want the council to be facilitating anything. We want somebody that's not on no sides. And we did that. We got an elected chair now. And then we start to have dialogue, proper dialogue with the partnership board. And it's going a bit progressive now. We've come a long way from then to where we are now. They're actually, I think, kind of listening. And I say that with like a little lump in my throat as well, because we don't know when they can shift. So I'm saying that like they're listening, but I'm wondering, are they really listening? I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. We've been doing that, but the council has a habit of lying. I just have to call it what it is. They've got a habit of lying. And if they're lying to us then, what's to say that they won't lie to us today? So I'm trying to like, you know, do that and do it with a pinch of salt, but still look for the lie to come in at some point. But so far we've, because just the other day I had to challenge the clearance person, because these blocks are meant to come down. They're earmarked for demolition, but somehow you're putting temporary people in there. You've got 12 temporary tenants right now as we speak in them blocks. And when people see that people are moving in now, are these blocks really coming down? You know, we don't know. So he's given me surety that this is only 12, and by next year when the block is completely empty, should be completely empty, no more people would be in, no overspills, nothing. So we're gonna hold him to that, and we will continue to challenge the council because that's our job. I'm doing this out of passion because I'm tired of seeing injustice done to people, especially people around here that's been deprived for like so many years, you know? You're gonna tell people you can't. I understand that people are homeless, and I understand that people are in temporary accommodation because we also work with shelter and know that statistics of things. But also you're gonna demolish. You don't need to put people in. You know, give us more social homes and help them people too. So we fought for that, and we got, because it was originally 60 social and 40% to sell. But we fought for that, and now it's on the cards as 100 social, 100% social homes, and they will add a few to sell to fund them social homes. So we're yet to see that, you know. I can't say that the council is going to do that, but I can say that we will challenge them to do that and hold somebody to account as well. So that's my campaign.
Thank you so much, Tamika. Like Tamika said, Neff have been working a bit with Druids over the past few years, and it's given me life. Like, that campaign is brilliant, and watching Tamika and the others hold the council to account last Christmas was absolutely amazing, and one of the favourite things that I've ever seen in my life. So like Tamika said, you know, they had to take collective power and build up collective power as a community to get the council to listen to them and move out of that endless cycle that people often place people in who are challenging their power, which is just pulling them off to one side as individuals and having one-on-one meetings with them. So the next speaker we've got, and the last speaker, because as I said, Rowan is sadly unable to make it this afternoon rather. So our next speaker is Yvonne Blake. Yvonne is a lifelong anti-racism and anti-poverty migrant rights activist. As a trainee community development practitioner, she focuses on the political and economic liberation of disenfranchised and marginalised communities. She particularly focuses on the collective empowerment of migrant communities to effectively challenge oppressive structures, norms and attitudes. And she's going to be talking today about the Living Rent campaign against Serco in Glasgow. So Yvonne, I'm really excited to hear about this. Over to yourself.
Hi everyone, thanks for having me. But first and foremost, I just want to send a big shout out. Big up yourself, Tamika. I love that. You slay it, my girl. You slay it. Whole heap of respect for that. Massive, massive respect. Yeah, big up yourself, my girl. You slay it. You slay it. So I just want to say thank you for having me, and I'm going to speak about a campaign in Glasgow. And I noticed you said the Living Rent campaign, and I just like to correct, it's not the Living Rent campaign. So it's a coalition of various migrant rights groups. And there were Unity Center, the No Eviction, the Unity, so the No Eviction Network is a coalition of various campaigns, various migrant-led group, and allies. The Unity Center is one, Migrants Organizing for Rights and Empowerment is another one, Unity Sister is another one, Unity LGBT, Living Rent. So there are various groups. And at the inception of the group, which is a migrant-led group, is one of the founding members of the Living Rents, of the No Eviction Network. And you spoke about something earlier on in your introduction about what organizing is, and that organizing is about the people with the experience. And because of that, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to situate it in the migrant-led organizations that are a part of the No Eviction Network, as opposed to Living Rent, who is an ally to the No Eviction Network, to the migrant struggle. So in relation to, so Glasgow is a dispersal city, and Tamika, you spoke about something about you noticed that they were bringing tenants into the block, even though they gave their words that it would be demolished. But I just want to say something that for Glasgow, for people who don't know, Glasgow is a dispersal city. And what a dispersal city, what it means is that it's a city where persons who are seeking international protection are sent to. And the houses that the asylum seekers were placed in, those are houses that were earmarked for demolition for British people, people who have status. So Tamika, don't worry, they will remove the British people out and they will say it is okay for people who are seeking asylum or other people to live in. So that, and when you said that, I make sure I wrote it down, because that is how, that is how for Glasgow is a dispersal city, and the blocks, the housing that were deemed inhabitable for the inhabitants of Glasgow, those are the houses that asylum seekers were put in to live. So don't be fooled, you know, that is a possibility. So I just wanted to flag this up. So in relation to the campaign, so I've been involved in several campaigns, and as I said, I've got lived experience of the immigration and the migration system. And I've been involved in several campaigns that is to challenge injustice, campaigns to provide support for capacity building, to ensure that communities who are impacted and who are affected, they take ownership of their campaign and they lead out, and they are the persons who are on the front line in relation to the campaign. Because there are two things. So I noticed that people can be attracted to a cause, and people can be mindful to support people. So if their aim is to support a cause, this month it's climate justice, next month it's regeneration, the other month it's migrant rights, anything that is on the television, that is what people support if they are supporting a cause. Now, the people who are supporting people are the ones who are there with you throughout your journey. I noticed you mentioned about what campaigning is, and if you're fighting a cause, and yes, I agree with that. And for the people who are there with you from the get-go, you know, the person who spoke about the market traders, English isn't their first language. They don't know the landscape of this country, but somebody who was there with them from the get-go to explain this, to support them, and until their campaign is now established, that is somebody who is there for, you know, supporting people as opposed to supporting a cause. And that is what I'd like to emphasize, that you have allies who their main aim is supporting a cause, and that is for career advancement. And you have allies who are there to support people. If you're supporting people, you're walking with me, you're walking in my shoes. If I'm doing 10 miles, you're doing 10 miles. If I'm doing 20 miles, you're doing 20 miles. If the camera is on us, it's on us. If nobody knows about us, like Tamika said, nobody knows about their place, you have to go around and come around and go around, you're there with them. Now, in relation to our campaign, so Circa initially was, previously it wasn't Circa, it was somebody called Orchard and Shipman. So I don't know how much people know about people claiming asylum. So if you're seeking international protection, it means that you're fleeing persecution from your home country. So it means that for various reasons, it's either that, you know, gender-based violence, it's either that you're trafficked, it's either that you're at risk of harm, serious harm. So you're fleeing persecution. Now, there's a, there are treaties, international treaties, which protect people who are anyone from any country, anywhere. You're seeking international protection, you have a right to flee to Britain wherever you choose to, or wherever you are able to get to. Now, for some reason, there are various legislation, especially the hostile environment policy that was initially that came into force under the Conservative government. And what the hostile environment policy is about is to ensure that anyone who is seeking international protection, their life is miserable. You have no access to employment, you have no access to education opportunities, and the houses that you live in are houses that are earmarked for demolition for people, for British people. So that is it. I've heard narratives that, oh, people who seek international protection, they have flat screen TV. No, that is not so. I've heard narratives that people who seek international protection, they have fancy this and fancy that. No, that is not so. People live in abject poverty. I don't know if anyone has been following the news about the young mother who died of hunger with her child beside her in Glasgow. People who are seeking international protection, they are fleeing from gender-based violence. They are fleeing being trafficked. They are fleeing horrific things that many people could not even stand for one day, just hearing the narratives, and many people cannot deal with it. This is what people are fleeing. And then people come to a country that is a part of that holds themselves out as signatory to the convention. And then when people come to this country, you have legislation deliberate to ensure, to make it impossible for people to live. For starters, asylum seekers are given £5 a day. That is what they need to buy their food with. In Glasgow, for you to get the bus to, an all-day bus pass ticket is £4.75. So if you have to travel to the Home Office to sign on, that is your £5 for the day, end of it. You're not able to access full-time education. You can study part-time, and for some colleges, it is so bad that even when people come with their skills, there are a lot of people who are university graduates, there are a lot of people who are doctors, there are a lot of people who are already professionals, and people come with their skills and they are being forced into courses like ESOL courses, basic courses, all because they are asylum seekers. And as I said, people are not allowed to work, and we speak about the housing condition. Now, initially, the contract was with a company called Circle, and then the contract changed to, was with Orchard and Shipment, then it changed to Circle. Now it is with a company called Mears. For some reason, Circle decided that they were gonna evict all asylum seekers in Glasgow. Now, when that came to light, a lot of groups came together, a lot of NGOs, a lot of solicitors, a lot of migrants, and I'm emphasizing a lot of asylum seekers themselves organized. And as I say, Unity Center, Migrants Organizing for Rights and Empowerment, Unity Sister, and with allies like Living Rent, we came together and we formed the No Eviction Network. And the purpose of the No Eviction Network was to challenge these evictions. And there was quite a lot of work that went into it. There's quite a lot of organizing that went into it. So we went out and we had, we knocked on doors. We had people we recognized that there are various risks, that people who have settled status can absorb certain risk, while people who are in the system, there are risks that you cannot be exposed to. So those were the things that, we sat down and we discussed, and there were various, we had various groups that, so as I say, in Glasgow, is a dispersal city. So asylum seekers are normally in the areas that are, how do I say this? In the areas that are not affluent because they have to think about maximum profit. So the areas that they can get the houses on the cheapest. So that's where the houses are normally in. So what we did, we identified those areas. And as I said, for the migrants-led group, these people, we know them. There are people who you have meetings with, there are people you go to their homes with, and that is a crucial thing. And for me, that is one of the strengths about people with lived experience organizing, because the insight that you have, people from outside can never, ever have that insight, because you have lived it. You know where people live, you know people houses. Yes, and that's the crucial element. And not just, it's not even a crucial element, it's an indispensable element that only people with lived experience can have. And because of that, as I said, our groups, it had various people, the asylum seekers themselves who were being threatened with eviction, they were also a part of, and they were core. And the campaign was guided by people who were going to be evicted or who were threatened with eviction. So we had various things. We went to the city council. I remember we went to the city council, the building, to deliver the demands to the councillor, to the head of the city council. And when we went, they did not want to let us in the building. So it was about like 5 of us. And then we had people who were distracting the security guard. And then I went and I dropped the letter somewhere else. And then by the time you realize what we were doing, we had already done that. And then we had left the building. And then there were various things where people went on the train, because what happened was that people identified also not just Circle, but also the subsidiary companies. And what they recognized was there's this train from the Caledonia sleeper train, that was a subsidiary. So then there was a protest outside the train station and people went on the train. I wasn't at that protest, and there were several protests. And the good thing was there were solicitors who came on board, and the matter was taken to the Edinburgh High Court, where it was challenged. And even though the outcome wasn't one that we had anticipated, because we went to court, we went to our banners, we were outside, we were visible. And I think that's a good thing, because and I'm going to stress this point, why it is important that as allies and people with lived experience, people work together as opposed to allies hijacking people's movement. Because the good thing was, because there were allies and there were people with lived experience, what the allies does, they can provide a kind of cushion and support people with lived experience to ensure that their voices are being heard. We went to, as I said, when we went to the court, there were several groups, there were shelter, there were several migrant-led groups, there were some Christian groups, various groups who were supporting. But what that does, that provided an opportunity for persons who were threatened with eviction. They were able to talk. That gave them some confidence. That gave them, just knowing that you have support, just knowing that not everyone is buying into that narrative that you're here because you're an economic migrant, knowing that people are sympathetic to your cause, knowing that people recognize that you have these rights and these rights can be upheld in a court of law. And I think that was one of the things. There are several things that change the dynamics, but that in itself, when we went there and there were people outside talking, people were talking to newspaper, people were talking to journalists, you could see that people had developed confidence, people had recognized that they had a right, and people felt that, yes, we had this right and we were going to enjoy this right. We were going to exert this right because we had this right. And the matter went to court. As I said, the result wasn't what we had anticipated, but what it did, it bought some time, in the sense that what the court agreed was that the eviction, even though they agreed that the eviction wasn't unlawful, but they said that the Circle had to give individual tenants eviction letters, which that in itself was a success. So that sort of frustrated the process a little, and they had to take people to court individually, and then the lawyers were there, and then we had like a lot of support. We had politicians on board. So I think in effect that was really a good that was really a good campaign, because what it did, it agitated and it raised awareness and it empowered people to be on the front line, people whose experience it was. So I think that was a good campaign. That I can think that's a good example of a good organizing campaign.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. I'm just like sitting here trying to like retain as much of what you've just said and what the others just said as possible. Like, it's such like, it's just bloody inspiring, basically. We've got about 10 minutes before we need to break, and Rowan would have been speaking in this time, but like I said, what we're going to do is we're going to use this time to have some questions. We've got 3 that came up in the chat, which I'll ask first, that are individuals, and then I'll go on to ask some more. So the first question would be was for Victoria, and it was basically just a fairly simple one, like, what's the latest now with the demolition of Latin Village? Like, what's going on with that? So Victoria, do you want to answer that, and then I'll come back and ask the next question, which was to Tamika.
Yeah, thank you to the ladies who spoke as well after me. sometimes you just hear things and it's really depressing because it makes you reveal things that you don't really want to think about it. But thank you. Well, with the demolition at the moment, it's really hard because the Transport for London, which is the owner of the land, is using COVID as a way to close down the whole market. So at the moment, as we stand, we don't have a market. There's only few traders who are working on the high road. They're doing every single dirty tricks that they can invent to be able to close us down. And I say to them, there is only two ways. Either you take me to the cemetery or you take me to hospital, but I'm not leaving. So this is what I pretty much have said, because I know if I leave, that's it, there is going to be no community. They say there's going to rebuild a temporary market before we go to another temporary market, but they are trying to find every single excuse, and on the contrary, we are trying to find every single solutions, because this kind of organization, they only work on problems. And then we have learned that we cannot work on problem. We need to focus on solutions, quick one, good ones, to be able for the community to be together and to work. So we're going to have a meeting with the mayor soon. Hopefully something positive will come out of that. Let's see how it goes. It has been difficult because as Nafatari say, is don't trust them, and it's true, don't trust them. They say one thing, they do another thing. But at the moment, the community, we're still together, we're still meeting every single week. The people who are not being able to trade, I'm trying to keep the spirit up. The market has been shut since March, 16th of March. And then, but we are refusing to die, and we're not gonna go down as easy as they think. And having us in the front, they're just giving hopes. And I'm trying to find, and we are trying to find collectively with a lot of people that are helping us and supporting us, trying to find out the positive and green alternatives way, and the way forward to be able to carry on trading in the future. I know it's uncertainty due to COVID, but that mustn't. I don't want them to use that as an excuse to be able to kill a community. So this is where we are, and perhaps in March they say the graveyard is have another temporary market to relocate the community. So how I see things is we have to move to a temporary, and then to another temporary, and then to another market. So in the meantime, what they are trying to do is pretty much exterminate the community. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as that, because with our determination is to carry on fighting until the end. So this is where we are at the moment, I'm afraid.
Thanks so much, Vicky. And like, best of luck and solidarity to what you're doing. I really do wish you victory in that. The second question that we've got is for Tamika, and it's from Michelle Martin. So it would be helpful to explain how you got people to move from just whinging to doing something constructive. How did you recruit others to join your campaign, Tamika?
I used to be a block champion before, and what that was to assist the council with the maintenance and whatnot, basically doing the council's job for them. And so we used to go meetings all the time there. We didn't have much people in the block champions, but when I left the block champions, I took those who were there with me to come to the forum. And with all of that, with Becky's help in organizing to do the door knocking and how we're supposed to do that, we got a bit of training basically to speak to people at the door and whatnot. And from there, that's how we start building. And like, we had a big AGM that a lot of people came to, like when we choose chairs and whatnot. And so most people that came to that AGM stayed on as forum members, and we've got the committee. But there was one person that really started all of this. She recruited majority of us in the sense of, building a community forum rather than just having these other agencies just, doing the basic stuff. And with her doing that, I got like a message through Facebook from one of them seeing me on BBC to say, like, do you want to do this with us or whatnot? And I was excited because I wanted to leave the Block Champions anyway, because we were just doing council work. So when I heard like fighting against the council, it made more sense to me. And I left and went there. And then we start getting people to come with us. Yeah, that's it.
Thanks, Tamika. That's really clear. And yeah, I think for you guys, it was all really about like, yeah, making really clear that like you were up for a fight, and that got people interested because they'd been screwed over by the council for so long that they didn't want to
fight the council.
Yeah, they just wanted to fight. So the last question is from Louise in Southend. Hey Louise, and it's for Yvonne. She says, Yvonne mentioned several different groups forming coalitions. I'd like to ask how consensus has been built between them and how they were brought together. So that's for you, Yvonne. Oh, you're just on mute, I think.
Mute myself.
That's great.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a very interesting question. So the question is how consensus were built among the groups that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. So as I said, Glasgow is a dispersal city for asylum seekers, and as a result, Glasgow is quite sensitive to matters relating to asylum seekers. There have been several campaigns. There have been the Glasgow Girls who have managed to change the legislation around education for young people. And so Glasgow has always been, you know, one of our signs is Glasgow welcome refugees. So Glasgow people have always been sensitive to the matters around asylum seekers. Now we have several grassroots groups. We have the Unity Centre that has been around for the past 10 years that have been providing practical support and emotional support to asylum seekers. We have Unity Sisters that's another group that have been that is a migrant-led group that has been supporting asylum seeking women. And Migrants Organising for Rights and Empowerment, that was the last group that was formed, and that was formed about 2 years ago. And our campaign is around campaigning for asylum seekers' access to education, employment, decent housing, and to be treated with dignity. So the circle eviction, the decent housing, and to be treated with dignity, that falls right into our campaign. So I'm one of the co-founders of MORE. So when the circle thing came about, I approached Living Rent and the Unity Centre to form a coalition, because I'm also a collective member at the Unity Centre. And as I said, for Glasgow, because the way how even the indigenous folks in Glasgow, how they have, for them, it's about Glasgow welcome refugees. So this is a topic that for everyone, it's inhumane. No one should be treated this way. And for the indigenous folks in Glasgow, they are saying not in our city. So that was a conversation that has always been had. That is a conversation that's, you know, it's a conversation that you tap in. It's not like a new conversation. So in that sense, it was not difficult. And as I say, I stress the migrant-led groups, because this affects the people who were at risk of being evicted. They are asylum seekers, so for them, it was easy for them. You're going to be evicted. So then naturally, you're going to fight for your home. And I spoke again about the role of allies, because there are several allies, you know, there are several groups that, you know, allied groups. So it was, even though it was a frightening experience, people knew that they had support. There was one lady that she was going to be evicted, and we went to her house and we sat there and we blocked the door. There were things like that you had people doing, people in communities who were saying, not under our watch, we will not have our neighbors being evicted. So what happened? You had people indigenous folks to Glasgow who probably didn't even know that the person who lived next to them, you know, were probably an international protection applicant. And what they did, they formed chains outside the doors, sit in the staircase, that if the circle officers came to evict people, at least the people had support and they would not be able to evict them. So in that sense, because And as I say, for Glasgow, the good thing is, you know, people are quite mindful and people are saying that this is a human rights, housing is a human rights. And I think that helps a lot.
Okay, thanks so much, Yvonne. That's really, really useful to know, especially for me, because I'm trying to do some coalition building of my own at the moment. So thanks so much for that. What we're going to do now is in a few minutes, you'll find yourself put into like a smaller breakout group I think we're going to put you into groups of 3. And there won't be a facilitator, so do just try and like be mindful of listening to everyone, and if you're the type of person who talks a lot, try to talk less. If you're the type of person who doesn't often speak up, then do try and speak up. And it would be great if in those small groups you could think about 3 specific things. So firstly, like, what did you learn from the speakers and from what they spoke about? Secondly, like something for yourself, like what do you think your next step or action on building community power or maybe workplace power is going to be? And it, like, what we're going to ask everyone to do is write a note to yourself about what that is and stick it on your laptop or stick it in your bathroom or on your fridge or whatever, so it reminds you, so you actually go and do something, because like we said, organising is about doing, not thinking. And then thirdly, do you have any questions for the panelists? So that's, what did you learn, what's the next step for yourself, and do you have any questions for the panelists? You'll be put into groups of 3 in a few minutes. I think Matt, our wonderful tech person, is going to do that. And then we'll come back in here at 1:20 and we'll take some questions and comments from the audience for the panelists and myself. So enjoy it and see you back here in a few minutes. Hey, I think we're all back. We're all slowly coming back. It's nice that some people have left their videos on. It's good to see people's faces. Hi to the people who I accidentally got put in a breakout room with. I wasn't listening to anything you were saying during it, so don't worry. Okay, so we're going to take some questions now from you guys for the panelists and for me, if you've got any for me. If you have got a question to ask someone specifically, then just say. Otherwise, what I'll be doing is I'll be inviting like the panelists to respond. We probably won't do the whole like everyone responds to a question thing, because we rather answer like as many questions as possible. So depending on what you're most comfortable with, if you've got a question, either stick your hand up like physically or on the like reaction screen if you've got a question, and I will take a look out for it. Or if you would rather type out the question in the chat box, and I will, Annie will send that over to me, and I will read it out. So yeah, do type anything in the chat box or stick your hand up. Annie has sent me a question which actually I think has come up earlier in the chats as well. So I'll take this one first. Annie has asked me what the relationship is between trade union organising and the kinds of campaigns we've heard about today. Like, I guess, you know, I'd invite any of the panelists to come in on this and in their experience. I guess my experience of that has been, it depends on the campaign. So in Druid Heath, the local Unison region were actually really useful in supporting some of the like early training sessions that we did, as well as sort of like giving a bit of like useful knowledge that the residents could use to hold the council to account. So that was really great, and it was really important in that case that it was at the residents' invitation rather than the local like branch or the regional secretary just coming in and doing it. So it really depends. In my opinion, trade unions should do a lot more of this, but it has to be like the trade union assisting and sharing the struggle with the people affected, rather than the trade union being like, this is our thing now. We're going to come in and do it, and here are our placards. Because that's just, it's not just damaging, it just doesn't work, to be quite honest with you. I can see that we've got a raised hand from Vic, so I'm going to take a question from him. And then I will, while Vic's asking that, I will have a look in the chat box as well. So Vic, over to you.
Yeah, thanks. There's sort of a question around, just sort of following on what you were saying. So unions need to be doing more around bargaining for the common goods. And that's worked really well, for example, in the US with unions like the Chicago Teachers Union doing stuff around defund the police, getting cops out of schools, around housing, where they've sort of helped set up and been part of coalition campaigns. So the question is sort of looking for practical advice for those in the panel who have experience working in coalitions, in terms of, is it a case that you identify people who think would be sympathetic in those individual organisations, or do you sort of get the tops of each of those organisations together in a room and try and work out a way forward? Because what I'm quite keen to avoid is what you just said, Becki, is the union sort of supplanting grassroots, rank and file people within those communities. Because what should happen is that it supports and facilitates and elevates those people in the community.
Thanks so much, Vic. Tamika, Yvonne, or Vicky, have you got anything to answer on that one?
Yeah, I think it's like any organization. My advice is, if you want to have like a trade union or any organizations to come and help you, remember it's your campaign and they're here to support you, not the other way around. This is very, very, very important, because sometimes the council, and it's from our experience, the council will use, or any organization will use that to say, oh, well, but it's not you guys, it's the trade union, trying to use people, because that's how they've been trying to use our campaign. So say, oh, well, but actually this campaign is being run by middle class people. And it's the traders, it's us, it's the community, and it's the whole people. And then you've got to be very careful, and not because they come with the best intention, and of course it's with the best intention, but you make sure that it's you at the front of the campaign, and then they are following you, not the other way around. They are there to help you and support you, which is they're great to support, but make sure that you're the one who are leading, because otherwise it will backfire on you at some point, because it has happened. I learned through through mistakes, in a sense that they were using this, and I say, hold on a second. And it was until I went to the council, I have a terrible route in there, and I was almost expelled from the council, because it was crazy, because they are using, this organization, when I talk organization, the council, Transport for London, GLA, are very good at making you feel like you were nothing, you are incapable to think for yourself and all that. Don't give them that pleasure. It's not. It's you who's running the campaign with the help of this other organization. That has been our experience.
Thanks so much, Vicky.
Just to add a little bit to Vicky.
Go ahead.
Becki.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just to add a little bit. It's just like, everybody that wants to work with you, just know their agendas first. Like, if you know what they're about, then you know what it is, and then just assure them that this is your campaign and you will have the last say regardless. So if they know that and we're in agreement with that, that's cool. Working with NEF is brilliant, because like, we would get that organizing thing going, but the last say is always ours. But there are other agencies or organizations that will come in with a direct agenda, and you just have to know that agenda and just decide if you want to work with them or not.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. Like, for anyone who's in a community position considering this, then yeah, be really, really aware of self-interest, and like, that's a technique that you can teach yourself as an organizer, is like learning people's self-interest. And it can sound like really like almost like manipulative to start thinking that way, but this is just how human beings are. Like, everyone's got their own reason for being involved in a campaign or wanting to support it. And it's really important, especially where there's like power imbalance, for everyone to be upfront about what that is, because then you can make decisions based on that. I think from like a trade unionist point of view, coming at it from the other side, especially when you're thinking about bargaining for the common good, which like personally, I think could be a really important step for the trade union movement in this country to take, and NEF are doing a lot of work into that at the moment, trying to help catalyse that where we can. It's important for trade unions to be like really humble and to not assume what the issues are that they can bargain over. So if you want to do this stuff as a trade union, then you need to start making those links with communities in your like schools area, Vic, or like, you know, around like the users of your like council services or whatever, and asking them like what is going on in their area, and asking them if they need help, like before you make assumptions, because that's where it's gone wrong in the past, where like trade union gets really excited about being able to help with like a private rental struggle or whatever, and then they go out and do it and they find that A, the help isn't wanted, and B, like a lot of people aren't that bothered about it anyway. So okay, we're going to move on to more questions. We've got one from Louise. So Louise asked, I'd like to know about how panelists have been organising during the pandemic and the restrictions that they have found that brings. So Yvonne, Tamika, Vicky, if you've got anything to add to that, then like please come in.
Okay.
Can I just add one thing to about what you spoke, the first question? It's just that I was on mute for some reason. I didn't
Sorry,
realize.
Yvonne.
Yeah, I think one of the thing, like, and I'll give an example with our group. So our group, More Migrants Organizing for Rights and Empowerment, we have initially from the inception of the group, we had in our constitution that only people with lived experience make decisions. Only people with lived experience make decisions. So allies, they don't make decisions, they support, they come alongside. So I think this has to be in your constitution from the get-go. So it shouldn't be something that as you're going along, you're from the get-go, the only people with decision-making powers are people with lived experience. Allies can suggest, yes, but ultimately it's only people with lived experience who make decisions. That's one thing. And in relation to how, and that has been extremely that has been beneficial, because it means that people with lived experience voices are not drowned. And another thing is people have to develop relationships. You can't just zoom in with a helicopter thing and say, oh, I'm the trade unionist on this and I want people. I mean, you have, this is not just an abstract struggle. This is people's lives. So for people who are, I mean, trade unionists and people who can just drive in from wherever and drive out, you're talking about people's lives. So it's like I'm inviting you into my house, actually, because I'm telling you my experience. It's not something abstract I'm reading from a book and say, and it was said in the year 18200. This is people's lives. So you have to respect that and recognize that it's about relationships, relational relationships. And until people get that, people are quite suspicious. And the thing is, what organizations think, I think they think that, you know, people live the experience, we are stupid, so they can just zoom in and zoom out. And people can see you from 1,000 miles and just shut down the moment you come and just don't engage with you. So you have to be, and that's why I spoke about the difference with supporting a cause and supporting people. When you're supporting a cause, people can smell that from 1,000 miles. When you're supporting people, it's an entirely different thing. And in relation to how we've been, our campaign has changed during lockdown. So for us, as I say, Glasgow is a dispersal city. And with the lockdown, what that meant that asylum seekers were further marginalized and further disenfranchised, especially in relation to digital access, in relation to digital poverty, in relation to food poverty, in relation to social isolation, because the places that people would normally meet, say the Unity Center, people would meet their friends at college, people would meet their friends at KPC, because of the restriction, you couldn't meet anymore. A lot of people, one of the things, and as I spoke earlier about the hostile environment policy, it means that even if you have a smartphone that is considered as wealth, and it means that your 35 pounds, now it's 40 pounds, your 40 pounds can be discontinued until you prove how you came about to having a smartphone. So a lot of people might have second-hand phones, or a lot of people might have basic phones. And even if people have a smartphone, they would not, from £35, there's no way you can add credit to that. So people would normally probably access Wi-Fi from their college. And when the lockdown came, then we realized that, okay, this is something that it's impacting our community. And that's why I say it's about the people who live the experience, because what we did, the second day of the lockdown, we created a crowdfunder. And for that crowdfunder, I think we've raised over £25,000 now, and we've got funding from various places, and we've supported more than 1,000 people. So what we've been doing, we've been providing phone top-ups every month to ensure that people remain, socially include. People are able to speak to their solicitors, people are able to speak to their friends, people are able to just remain in contact. We provided, then after we were having conversations, we realized that the food banks that people used to go, the food banks are closed. So then people have no money, and there's an Aspen card that is issued by the Home Office. So with the Aspen card, you can either go to the cash point and withdraw the money, or you can use it. Some people are not able to withdraw cash. However, the sad thing with that is that you cannot purchase things online. So it meant that people had to go to the shop. We're talking about mothers with children. We're talking about people with underlying health condition. And in order to get to the shop, if there were no bus, if you didn't have a vehicle, there was no way. It was just totally impossible. So what we did, we got some funding, and we were providing food support in the sum of £30 each month. We had volunteers who would deliver the money, and if people were shielding, then they would send their shopping list to us, and we would purchase the food and take it to them. And the reason why we did that on the cash first principle was it's about dignity, to respect people's dignity. And because for asylum seekers, they have very limited choices, and to ensure that at least that was one area in their life that they choose what they wanted to buy. We purposely didn't do as the vouchers, because we opt for, if we were going to purchase things from the shop, it had to be local shops, people in our communities. So for us, what we've been doing, it's more around supporting people it's more around self-care and around, because I believe that while campaigning is important, I think the most important thing in campaigning is self-care. Because if you don't develop people capacity, if people don't feel as if they are valued, you can fight a campaign which is, I wouldn't say it's abstract. You can fight a campaign, yes, but then you're talking about people, and the most valuable assets is people. So for us, our campaign is more about supporting people, ensure that people are kept alive, to be honest. Because as I was saying in the group that in Glasgow, we've had literally three suicides among our community. So our campaign is just to ensure that people are kept alive, calling people, checking in how they're doing, find out what support they need, and just befriending, to be honest. So that's what we've been doing.
Thanks so much, Yvonne, for that. I think Tamika wanted to come in quickly on this question, and then I'm going to take a question next from Nick, who posted something in the chat earlier. Just before we hear from Tamika, do keep posting any questions or stick your hand up if you've got a question. If not, it's also fine to just give your thoughts on what you've heard today. I, for example, would be really interested to know what people have taken from what they've heard so far, and what next steps they're going to take next based on that. So yeah, do post that, or stick your hand up if you want to speak, and we'll come to you. Tamika, did you want to come in on how COVID's affected things?
Yeah, it's kind of steep with us at the minute, because majority of our work is on the ground. But with that being said, we still have Zoom meetings with the committee, and we work with TAWS to give food from the food bank that they run in one of our community centers. But with the groundwork, because we did when we knocked the doors, we accumulated numbers and names and emails of the people that we spoke to. So I would keep in touch via that. So instead of me going to somebody's door and stuff, we have that record where I can check check upon them to see if they need anything during the crisis, whatever. And also, like, if they're in need of anything, we're trying now, because we just got a worker on board with us. We hired somebody. We're trying to like let her go out and see like the type of things, that services that they would need during this time. Yeah, so that's what we've been doing.
Great. I think like both of those answers show a really important aspect of organising, which is, even if you're a member of the community that you're organising, you can really fall into this trap of like the struggle being the most important thing and not looking after each other. And it is really important, like Yvonne was saying, if you don't look after the people involved in your group or campaign, then you haven't got anything, because like people power is what fuels organising. And if you don't look after yourself and the people you're working with, you're not going to have that. Okay, so there's a question next from Nick. I'm just scrolling up to be able to find it. Okay, where's it gone? It was, how has your life been enriched individually and communally by your experiences? So have your campaigns opened up any new demands, and what have they taught you as people? Feel free, any of you, to come in on this. Vicky?
You mean us?
Yeah.
I like that. Of course it's us.
Well, I've learned a lot.
Okay.
I've learned a lot since doing it. Is it me?
Well, Vicky had her hand up, but you can...
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. It's okay, darling. It's fine. Go on then.
Oh, yeah. Thanks, Vicky. I've learned a lot from this, because I was thrown into it rather than like say that I wanted to do that. You know, I was thrown into the mix, but I enjoyed it, enjoy what I'm doing. And I love fighting the council. And I learned recently, because I never knew my dad, and I learned recently that he used to be a politician in Jamaica back in his day. So it's embedded in my DNA to do this. So I like the fight, and I will continue to fight. And I've learned, like, majority of people that comes to help you ain't really helping you. So you just have to decipher that side of it and get rid of those people and work with the people that are there for you, literally passionate about what you're doing and stuff like that. So that's what I've learned. Like, the passion is what drives us to do this, not basically the like, oh, we're gonna do this, but because of how we feel about doing it. That's what has been driving me. And I know the people that I'm working with, Becki herself, and also my committee members, we're driven by passion. You know, they're not affected, my committee members, but I am, but their passion drives me, you know? So that, yeah. So that's what I've taken from that.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Tamika. Vicky, over to you.
Thank you. Well, for me, I think I did found a purpose in life. I mean, not that I didn't know before, but like Tamika say, I didn't realize that my father and my grandfather, they were activists back home. That's why they were killed, sadly. But it just, you don't even know. And then when you've been thrown into a situation that you need to, it's like when you are in the middle of the sea and you're about to collapse or to capsize, you have the only way out is to fight back, and then fight back not only for you but the community. So for me, it has been, for me, we already won this campaign, because it's about people, it's about getting to know so many other individuals in so many different levels, and be able to understand them and be able to work with them, to be able to have this resilience, this patience that it takes, that the dedication, they in and out for years and years and years, everything. I swear, even though it has been extremely hard, extremely difficult, I wouldn't change anything, apart from we wanted the whole market to thrive and everything. But I wouldn't change, because among this year, I met an amazing people who has inspired me and enriched my life in ways they cannot even imagine. Then to me, that has been, we already want this in that sense, because this is about people and believe in humanity and kindness, and that we can make a difference. Yeah, for me, this is what it's about as well.
Maybe tear up a bit, Vicky.
Yeah. I was wondering if there's anything I could add to that. Like, you know, I think for me what has been inspiring is that there's always the propensity and the capacity for humans to develop, and it doesn't matter how downtrodden the system trods us down. And my favorite poem is, you know, like Maya Angelou. It says, you know, you may write us down in history with your bitter, twisted lie. You may trod us in the very dust like dirt, but still we rise. And for me, that is the beauty of campaigning.
Yeah. I'm not going to try and say it better than Maya Angelou. But yeah, I mean, like, just to add my perspective on this, like, I started off as a rank and file trade unionist, like, and when I first got involved in a union, which is my first experience of organising, I was a completely different person, and like the thought of doing something like this, I'd have been in tears. I wouldn't have done it. I was really shy. I had real social anxiety. I never opened my mouth, never said anything. And being in a union like changed me, because it was the first like place I'd been in outside of my family and friends where someone listened to me, and like people respected me, even though I was like a really low paid worker and really low down in my organisation. And that is what I love about organising. Like, you know, even when you are up against the biggest struggle in the world, if you do organising right, you win, regardless of what happens, because you change the lives of the people involved in that struggle, and you give them the self-respect and the respect that the council or their employer or whoever it is has never bothered giving them. And you get it yourself as well. And so yeah, that's, I mean, basically, like, you can't go wrong in organising if you're doing that, and that's why I love it so much. Does anyone have any other questions to ask of these like three remarkable women, or does anyone want to share anything that they discussed in their breakout groups?
Sorry, I was going to write it, but I couldn't formulate it. I think it's so powerful that, Yvonne, your framing, I mean, all of this is very powerful, but Yvonne, your framing of it's about people, not cause, is really so important. And what this is about is rebuilding those connections and community that has been so destroyed by the system we live in and everything. And so that's really, really powerful. One of the things we were discussing in our group was the notion of self-care and how do you take care of yourself. And certainly I think part of the answer is by building that community, you're also taking care of yourself. But I wonder if you have sort of more thoughts on this, because this is such hard work. You're really pushing a rock up a stone. And how do you keep yourself and all the other things you do as people and women in the world? You know, it's a lot. It's a heavy lift. So I guess I'd just love to hear a little bit about that and how that all plays into all of this.
How do I keep going? By saying that tomorrow is going to be a better day. How I keep going is I have a lot of, I know this is a secret, a lot of monologues with myself in front of the mirror. I know it sounds crazy, but I talk to myself because sometimes I feel really overwhelmed. And I say, because sometimes you can go through so many emotions in one day. And then when you are the leader of a group, for example, in my case, and then people ask me so many questions, I know that I have to be completely sane to be able to give the right advice, even though that sometimes I say to them, look, I don't know, but I can find out, or something like that. But you know, you got these people expecting you to give the best of you. So sometimes when you collapse, I cry a lot. And then I say, okay, I need to cry because I need to let it out. And I talk to friends and people who understand me, and then to help me again, your group, to say no. By talking to people, you know, you share the load and it's less heavier. And I talk to myself and I say, and I ask myself, 16 years ago, if they ask you that you're going to go through all this hardship, because it's not only trying to protect a group that you are helping with, is how they attack you as a person and how they're trying to destroy you, because this is what happens to me. I end up going to the doctor, have to take medicine for panic attacks and everything. And I took them home. I go home with the pills and I say, you know what? I'm not going to have this because I'm stronger than this. And I just stand up in front of the mirror and I look at myself and I cry like it was not tomorrow. Then I say, I can do this. And then if 16 years ago they asked me, would you do it again? I would say, F you, yes, I will do it. And this how it is. And then you have good days, bad days. And then knowing that you are making a bit of a difference for so many people, that is that is the gasoline or the that I need to carry on going, basically. That is me personally.
I don't know how I go on sometimes, because loads of times I want to give up. Becki knows that too. Like, I will call her and say, like, look, I can't do this. I would say, like, I've got my kids to look after, I've got this, I've got that. But like, when you wake up 3 o'clock in the morning and have to send an email to the council or to somebody, it's like, you got to do this. Not thinking that I'm different from anybody in the committee that can't do it or can do it. It's just that it's in me to do this. Like, that's how I literally feel, that like it's dwelling on me that I have to do this. So taking care of myself right now, I don't think there's no taking care of myself, but just to see that everything goes according and in all fairness to the people around here, and then I can rest. Until that is over, then I would say, yeah, I can put my feet up and say, yeah, we did that. But there's no resting for me right now. And that's the honest truth.
There's just been a point made about like collective joy in the chat box. And like, yeah, this is like, that's a phrase that gets like thrown around loads. And I guess it's difficult sometimes to understand what it means. But like fundamentally, like this stuff should be fun. Like this stuff should make you laugh. And like what I get a kick out of is like, I'm the same as Tamika, like I like fighting, and there is nothing better than like doing something that some arsehole at the council or in a workplace doesn't expect you to do. It always makes me smile, like even if all you've done is annoy them and you've not moved like
that's true.
Sometimes just to send those like passive aggressive emails, like like the thing about about Yvonne pulling a wool over security's eyes, like that is hysterical. And like taking stories like that with you,
exactly.
It's really that's what keeps me going. Like someone once said to me that an action is, they said this to Tamika as well, actually it was Stephen Lerner, Tamika, that if you think of an action to do and it makes everyone in the room laugh, then like that's the action to take. You work out ways to do that, because this is hard, this is difficult, and you need to like keep focused on that stuff. We've only got 5 minutes left, and I think unless there's like any one last quick question, I'm gonna wrap things up now and just say I'm gonna ask the panelists to give some closing thoughts very quickly for like 30 seconds each, and then we'll call it to an end. So Yvonne, do you want to just give...
Yeah, I like to quickly go. The reason why I'm laughing is because you spoke about annoying people, and I'm just going to quickly say this. So I don't know, has anyone read Alinsky, 10 Rules for Radical? So there's, at the University of Glasgow, there's one time we did a campaign to ensure that asylum seekers are able to access a swimming pool. And that campaign was successful. And what I did, every single day, 9 o'clock, I'd put in my diary and I would call the same people. And according to them, the person who I need to speak to wasn't there. And I write in my diary every single month. And I did that for like 1 month. Every time I called them, you could see how annoyed they were. And my friend and I, we would just laugh about it. No, that has been resolved. There's been a bursary so asylum seekers can use the pool. But like those little things, I like those little annoying things. But for me, what I do in self-care, and my faith is really important to me. I'm Seventh-day Adventist. So for people who don't know, Seventh-day Adventist, we believe that when the sun set on Friday, you rest until the sun set on Saturday. So for us, that's a Sabbath. So that period of rest is really crucial, because that time I shut down and it's just about, not thinking about campaigning or anything else. And that has been, replenishing, rejuvenating, and that has, I mean, that has been priceless.
Thanks so much, Yvonne. Vicky, have you got any closing thoughts you want to share with people? Is Vicky still on? I can't see her. There she is.
I'm here. Well, to me, just never give up.
Mm-hmm.
Look for your goals, but look down first, and then remember where you were and all the journey, where you have, where is the campaign leading to you. And like I say, I've been the most annoying person in all Tottenham. I think everybody knows me because I am absolutely a pain in the bum for so many organizations around, especially the council. But I'm very happy when hi Vicky, is that you? Oh my God, yeah. What can we do for you? Well, this, that, and the other. But never give up and carry on. And I think as we all collectively can make a difference, and we need to do that for our kids and the future. That's my last thing to say.
And Tamika, do you have anything to add to what these brilliant women have said?
Just a little bit, just to say, the race ain't for the swift man, is just who can endure it. And my fight will carry on. And if you've got like anything in your community that that needs looking after, just rally up the troops, man, and just fight. Because the fight is there to do, and we can't do it alone. We need the backing of the community. So just start talking to your neighbors if you haven't done that. Get to know them. And if there is anything at all that you need to fight for, you got to do that, because the people at the top are not looking for us. They do things to us rather than, and they're public servants at the end of the day. They should be working for the people. But if they're not doing that, you got to like sort them out, man. Yeah.
Thanks so much to all the panelists. Thanks to those of you who've stayed right to the end to hear about this. The only thing to finally say from me is keep pushing, keep doing it. Don't worry if it doesn't feel like you're getting there. Like, you are getting there as long as you're putting people first. Keep talking to each other, keep spending time in spaces like this. Get out there and do it. If you ever need any advice, you can always email me at the New Economics Foundation. I will talk about organising with anyone. If you want to get in touch with any of these panelists, just let the World Transform know, and we'll do that. And I think that's it. You can register for more events at the link that's just been posted in the chat box. And if you can, please do make a small donation and support the World Transform. There's a link for that there as well. So that's it from me. Thanks so much, Tamika, Yvonne, Vicky. I've loved it. Thanks, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
View the full TWT20 program and become a supporter today to help us deliver political education all year round at theworldtransformed.org.